Stephanie, welcome to another video. So we're going to do something a little different today. So I picked out a necklace pendant that I did a while back called the Mosaic pendant and necklace, I think it's called. I'll link it in the description box below the video. And I never made a bracelet to go with it. We did make earrings, which I didn't pull out, but they're cute too. I'll link those too. But this was a reversible pendant, which was so cool. So on this chain, it's reversible. I put this one on my triad necklace. I used that particular piece, and I have a video for that as well. It's not reversible any longer, but I just think it's so gorgeous on this necklace as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through my stash, and we're going to pick out some beads, and we're going to make a bracelet. So when we come back, I'll pull out some of my boxes with my beads in it. We'll pick out some beads. Hopefully they'll all work out, and we'll make something that will go with this pendant necklace. And in a way, it'll give you kind of an idea of how I design, because people are always asking me, how do you, come up with your designs? A lot of times it's playing off another design that I made, and I use beads from that, or some of the beads or the colors and such. So it just gives you a little idea of how things might go. All right, let's have some fun. Okay, so I've grabbed some boxes of beads, and I did multi-hole beads. So these are beads that have lots of holes, 2 holes and up, and then some super duos. So let's take a look at some of the multi-hole and see what we want to use. Okay, so in my multi-hole bead box, I have lots of 2-hole and up, 3-hole beads and such. So in my pendant, I used these Wibe Duo beads, which I called Wibby Duos the whole time. And many of you, corrected me, which is so true. So it's a Wibe Duo, even though I think it should be called a Star Duo. So we'll pop those out. And then I used some Moby Duos. So right here, I have a couple of Moby Duos here that are really beautiful. They're almost like a super duo, only, they're Moby. I guess that's because it looks sort of like a whale, maybe. But it's a beautiful, beautiful bead. And I think it's just adds an elegant touch. So we'll pull a couple of those out. And then I'm going to pop over to the super duos. Now, pardon me with the super duos, they're kind of a mess, but being that I'm sort of using coppers and golds, I think I'm going to run for a copper super duo. So here's one right here. My colors are all mixed up, but I think that'll be pretty. I mean, you can really choose anything you like. So we have that. Back to my multi-hole box. Actually, the other box, I have 2 boxes. This is the bigger one. And I immediately, when I opened it, saw this. And I love this because it's a mini round duo. Am I right? Yes. I love using these. We haven't used these in ages. So it's a round bead. So I want to use a round bead because I have a round bead in my pendant. But I thought, wouldn't it be fun to use one of these, the ones that have the 2 holes. I mean, these are so cool to have. Absolutely love them. So I think I see some copper in there. So we'll go ahead and we will put this in the mix. Pick out all my beads. And I'm sort of going on this colorway now. So, here's my Wibe Duo. Here's my Moby Duo. I picked it out in gold, but I think I'm going to use this cream one because if you do have the necklace and you want to reverse it and wear this side, I think that'll look nice. So we'll find a cream one. Hopefully I have one. And then I picked out this super duo. I've got a 15-0, 11-0, and this 11-0 is one of those, is Aztec gold. It's one of those coatings. Absolutely adore this bead. Here's my little mini round duo. I just threw in there a 3mm pearl, 4mm pearl, because I had, the color in here, and I think that, could be pretty. And then I have my little cup button right here that I'm going to use. I've got a 6-pound Fireline in crystal. Yeah, I know I've changed to crystal. I used to use black satin all the time, but I can't find it anymore. I can find the smoke, but the color comes off my hands, and no matter what I do, it just does. So I'm using the crystal, and I'm loving it, so we're okay with that. We'll still look at some other threads as well, in the future. And then I have a needle case with also different size needles. I've got a little stop bead, right there. So I think that's about it. So I'm going to clear this off and we'll get started. All our beads are picked out. And so I was thinking, how am I going to put those beads together? And from looking at this, over and over again, I thought, what if we put them together so that we have this sort of rectangular or oblong looking component and then just connect the components. Now, I think because it's pretty big this way, because I picked out a super duo, I would replace this bead with the super duo and make the pearls smaller. And I think that would make a really pretty bracelet. And maybe we can do it so that we can just do it not in separate components, but just keep going around and around. And with, you know, with multi-hole beads, it makes it really easy to do that. So this is what I'm aiming for after seeing all the beads. So we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to go off and I'm going to play a little bit. I just take the beads and I kind of move them in all different directions. When they're 2-hole beads, I just put them down like a puzzle, you know, and I put the pieces together and I get an idea of what they're going to look like, you know, what the design's going to look like. And then the 11-Os and 15-Os, whatever, will sort of, you know, fit in, can always fit those in around the beads and such. All right, so let me go off and do a little bit of work and then we'll come back and we'll make a tutorial. I'm gonna get started. So I went off, it's the next day now. So I went off and I just started putting the beads together. I was doing all kinds of little, little designs and little thumbnails, and this is what I came up with. So I think it came out great. I love it. I think it's so, so pretty. That's the front. Here's the back. It really kind of hugs your wrist. It's very, very supple, very, very soft, and it just molds to your skin. And here is the one that I made the video for today. So I did this one first, and then I think I improved upon it just a little bit, you know, the clasp area by, you know, doing this one. So this is the one we're going to work on today. So thread your needle with a nice length of thread. We're going to make this using one thread, you know, and add thread if you need it. In other words, we're not doing separate units and sewing them together. It's going to be all one piece. So, you know, if you can add a nice length of thread, that's fine. If not, you can always add thread as you need it. So I added a stop bead. I left about a 10-inch tail. So I picked up and dropped down to my stop bead, one of the Moby Duos, and a super duo. I did that 4 times. So just like so. Remember, these have like a hump on the top, and then the bottom is a little more flat, so make sure you're putting it on the same way all the time. So this is what I have. Sewing through that first bead after my stop bead, like that. So this is what it looks like. I want to make sure that those beads are, you know, the Moby Duo. See that? They're sort of upright. And then you're just going to sew all the way around to reinforce. Sew all the way around, and I came around like a couple of times until I was exiting Moby Duo here. I'm exiting the bottom hole. Just going to sew through the top hole of that Moby. That's what we have. I'm going to pick up one of the Wibe Duos. I know I've always called them Wibby Duos. I like that name. Anyway, here's a Wibe Duo. And again, we have a bottom like that. That's more flat. And then we have the top, which is sort of domed. So make sure you're picking it up correctly. Exiting here. So this Moby Duo, Moby Duo, I'm going to sew through the super duo. That's going to place that right there. How perfect little fit that is. And then we're going to pick up an 11-O, and I'm going to sew through the next Moby. I'm going to pick up another 11-O, and I'm going to sew through the next super duo. So this is what I have so far. Exiting the super duo, I've picked up another Wibe. I think we should call them star duos. Okay, so here, I picked up another one, and I'm exiting the super duo. I'm going to sew through the Moby Duo, just like that. Oops, I got my needle caught. Let me grab that. There we go. This is what it looks like. I'm going to pick up another Wibe. I'm going to bring that down, and I'm exiting the Moby Duo. I'm going to sew through the super duo. Like that. Then I'm going to pick up an 11-O. And another 11-O. Sewing from I went from the super duo to the Moby, and then from the Moby to the super duo, another 11-O, like that. Last wibe. I'm going to sew through the top hole of the Moby. Like that. So this is what my unit is going to look like so far. So this is where I'm exiting this Moby. I'm going to sew through the next wide duo, through the next super duo, and 11-0. If you can get it. If you can't get them together, just get one at a time. It's just a matter of the angle of your needle. So like that. And then I'm going to sew through the next 11-0 and the Moby. So this is how I want your piece situated. This is how, so here, see that? This is what it looks like. So you're going to make sure that you're exiting this Moby duo right there. Up an 11-0, the mini round duo 11-0, the Moby duo 11-0, mini round duo 11-0. So you're exiting right here. This is my sequence right there. Just going to sew through the other side of that Moby. This is what it looks like. We're just going to exiting the Moby. I'm just going to continue on just what I've sewn through, just like this, staying in line. I'm going to exit the bottom hole of the Moby, and then I'm going to sew through the top hole. That's what I have so far. Okay, we're exiting the Moby right here. We're going to pick up a super duo Moby, super duo Moby, super duo Moby, and a super duo. So we have 4 super duos with the 3 Moby duos in between. The other side of that Moby. That's going to place our unit on just like that. All the way around, I'm exiting, I've reinforced exiting the bottom hole of a Moby. I'm going to use this one. I'm trying to exit places where it's going to be easy for you to get to connect the next one without going around and around. So this seemed to work okay. I mean, it doesn't really matter, you just sew around. Anyway, I'm exiting the bottom hole of this Moby. I'm just going to sew through the top hole, and this is what it looks like so far. I want to repeat what I did on this unit. So you see we're just making another unit here. So if you notice, the 2 wipe duos are right here at the top, and then we have 11-0s over here. So the first bead I'll put on will be the wipe duo. So I'm exiting the top of the Moby. I'm going to pick up the wipe and sew through the super duo. Then I'm going to pick up an 11-0, and I'm going to sew through the next Moby duo like that. Another 11-0 through the super duo, and then you want to wipe here. So you're going to pick up your wipe, and let me just make sure I'm getting that on correctly. These are weird, trying to kind of get the your needle through the right hole. So if it doesn't go through, and it doesn't sit correctly, then just take it out. Okay, there we go. It's my wipe. I'm going to do another wipe, 2 11-0s and another wipe, and that will complete that unit. So I'll let you do that. Okay, let's add the last wipe duo. So exiting the super duo, I've picked up the wipe duo and I've sewn through the Moby duo. So this is where I'm exiting. I'm going to continue on sewing through the next wipe, the super duo, the 11-0, and the next Moby duo. And this is going to set me up to put my next round of beads on. So this is how you're going to repeat it all the way down. Put a little timestamp to where you started adding your mini round duos on, and you'll just keep going until you get the length of your bracelet. My bracelet is 6 inches without the clasp. So it took 6, and my bracelet will probably be about 7 inches, 6 3/4 or 7 inches. All right, so have fun making your units. We have a lot more to do besides putting the clasp on. We have lots of embellishing to do and such. So come on back and we'll continue. Okay, so let's say you finished your bracelet. I'm doing a mini because I ran out of my Moby Duos, which is such a bummer because I just think it's such a beautiful bead. I do have metallics, but I ran out of this color. I would highly recommend this bead. It's got a weird name, but it's so, look how pretty that looks. It's very elegant, yet you can make it casual, so it's really pretty. All right, so we're exiting the Moby. We're going to add an 11-0, the mini round duo 11-0, the cup button, and then you're going to decorate the top of the cup button with an 11-0. I put a little 3mm pearl here. You can put anything you like here. And I have an 11-0. I came through the other side of the cup button. So here's my thread path. And then I added an 11-0, the mini round duo, and an 11-0. And I'll leave that up there so you can see the thread path. Just going to sew through the other side of the Moby. Like that. And that's going to put my cup button on like so. That's what it looks like. Now I'm going to start reinforcing. So I'm going to sew through the 11-0, the mini round duo, the 11-0, up through the cup button, through the whatever bead you put on top of your cup button, down the other side of the cup button, through the 11-0 mini 11-0, like that, and then back through the Moby Duo. So I've just done a little reinforcing right there. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Reinforced, and I'm exiting the Moby. I'm going to sew up through that next 11-0 and the mini round duo. Now I'm going to sew through the other side of that mini round duo. So I just want to reverse direction here. So this is what it looks like. I'm exiting the other hole of the mini round duo. I'm going to pick up 2 11-0s and I'm going to sew through the top hole of that wide duo, so that right there. And then I'm going to pick up a 15-0, a pearl, and a 15-0, and I'm going to sew through the next wide duo. So just like that. So I'm exiting the wide. I'm going to pick up 2 11-0s, and I'm going to sew through the top hole of this mini round duo. And this is why I love using them so much, because it like really makes it easy for you to add beads, like the perfect amount of beads. Could you use a 4mm and just go through again? Probably, but I just love that it gives me that option, you know, to add anything I want there. So here I'm exiting the mini round duo. I'm going to pick up 2 11-0s and sew through the top hole of the wibe. So you see what that does? That's what it looks like. And then I'm going to pick up 15-0, 4mm pearl, and a 15-0. And I'm exiting here. I'm going to sew through the next wibe duo. And then I'm just going to repeat that all the way down. So you're going to pick up 2 11-0s, sew through the top hole of this mini round duo, 2 11-0s through the top hole of through the next wide duo, and then we're going to get this little pattern going, just like that. So you can do that all the way down to the end. Get my last 15-0 pearl, 15-0, so this 4mm pearl, and I'm going to sew through the last wide duo. This is what it looks like. Okay, so I'm exiting I put on my last 15-0 pearl 15-0, and I'm exiting the wide duo. Here's my thread path now. I'm going to pick up 2 11-0s, one of the mini round duos. I'm going to pick up about 24 or 26. I use 24 on this loop, and I felt like maybe it was slightly tight, so I'm going to try 26 here. So 26 11-0s, then I'm going to put on another mini round duo and 2 11-0s, and I'm going to sew through the wide duo on the other side. So when I pull, that's what it looks like. Don't worry, we're going to get back to that. That's why you have that 10-inch tail. So we're going to get back to that in a minute. So just like that, and now we're going to repeat our embellishment on this side. Picked up a 15-0, a purl, and a 15-0. I'm going to sew through the next wibe, and then I'm going to pick up 2 11-0s, and I'm going to sew through the mini round duo. I'm going to pick up 2 11-0s, and I'm going to sew through the wibe duo. See what a pretty pattern that makes? And we're not done yet. 15-0 purl. I need a 15-0 through the next one. So you just do this all the way down. Isn't that pretty? So we're going to do that all the way down, and then you can end off this thread. So just sew, sew this thread and tie some knots and such, because we'll add another thread for our next, for the final embellishment. So just continue all the way down, and then before we start the next embellishment, we'll finish the clasp on this end. To finish the end here, so I kind of went ahead of myself a little bit. So when you come down and you put your last 15-0 4mm purl, 15-0, you're coming through the wide. We're just going to add those 2 beads on, right? So we're just going to sew through the other side of the mini round duo, like that, and then come on back through the other side, like that. So we just want to make sure we get this sewn on so that it's snug, and then you can come through your 11-0 and the Moby duo. So now you're attached on both ends, and then you can just sew this thread in. Okay, so before we continue, so if everything is done, we have one more embellishment to do. I want you to take off your, stop bead off your tail, and you should be exiting the Moby duo, top hole of a Moby duo. If you're not, you'll just, and you didn't move your thread, you'll need to just sew through the beads until you get to the top hole of that Moby duo. There are lots of places that you can get around there. So this is where you want your tail thread to be exiting. An 11-0, and I'm going to sew through the other hole of that mini round duo, and then I'm going to pick up, I think I'm going to use one of my little 3mm pearls, and I'm going to sew through the round duo on the other side, and then I'm going to pick up an 11-0, and I'm going to sew through, right back through that Moby duo. And that should sit, everybody, kind of like so. Now I'm just going to continue on through this 11-0 and the mini round duo, and I'm going to start a little peyote here. So I'm going to start with this on this side here on this hole. I'm just going to pick up an 11-0. I'm going to skip this 11-0 and sew through the next 11-0, and that should sort of sit that one just kind of like that. Then I'm going to pick up another 11-0, exiting here, skip this one, sew through this one, and I just want to push those into place. So this is what it's going to look like, and you're just going to do your little peyote, your peyote ring. You can just leave it without the peyote if you like, but just want to make sure that it's not too big if you just do just a plain loop. And I'm going to peyote it all the way around. So I'll meet you sort of at the end and we'll connect. Going down to my last 11-0. So I'm exiting right here, picking up my 11-0, skipping a bead, sewing through the next bead and the outside hole of the mini round duo. And as I'm doing this, I'm making sure I really pull these into place because they can tend to get wonky and you want them nice and snug. So just like that, bring this together a little bit more. I'm exiting so that this hole of the mini, I'm just going to sew through the other hole of the mini because, we sort of started here, through the pearl, like that, and then through the mini, the next mini, like so. And you just want to give it a nice pull in. And at this point, you can just sew through this 11-0 here. So kind of going back to the beginning again, right there, and the Moby, and then you can just sew this thread in. And then you have both your ends of your clasp on. I think that came out great. Love it. It's a little different than the original, but I like it better. So here we go. That's what it looks like so far. So I'm going to sew this thread in and, make sure you sew your other thread in. And then we have an optional embellishment, which is we're just going to put these seed beads around the points. Now you don't have to do that. You can just leave it just like this. And I think it's really pretty just like that. But come back and we'll do this and see which one you like better. Okay, this is what we have so far. So now we're going to add this embellishment all the way around the edges. So all I did was I just threaded a needle with, enough of a length of thread so I can get all the way from one end of my bracelet to the other. I'm going to use both. I'm going to sort of use one side of the thread for one side of the bracelet to embellish and one side for the other. So all I did here was I just started with, I put my needle through these two 11-0s. The mini round duo came out through the 11-0. I came through all the beads again on the clasp. These are a little tough to get through, but go through them one at a time and you shouldn't have a problem. Through the 11-0, the mini, and the two 11-0. So what I'm doing is exiting the two 11-0s on either side of the bracelet. So here, let me put it this way so you can see it. So, just went through all these beads to get through. I have an even number of thread on both ends, so I can just do this side and sew it in. Okay, so let's get started. Exiting these two 11-0s here. I'm going to pick up 5 11-0s. Exiting here, I'm going to sew through that 15-0 and the pearl. See how that puts like a little point right there? And then the 15-0. Like so. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do 5 11-0s. Let me make sure I did 5 on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Yeah, I did. So 5 11-0s. Then I'm going to sew through, excuse me, these two 11-0s next to the round duo and the round duo. You can do them separately. I have to put another point on, and then I'm going to sew up through these two 11-0s. I'm going to repeat that. 5 11-0s. I'm exiting here. I'm going to sew through the 15-0, the pearl, and the 15-0. 5 11-0s. If it fits better with a 15-0 or a combination of beads, that's fine too. I just this just worked out well. So I'm exiting the 15-0, I've got my 5 11-0s, and then I'm going to sew through the two 11-0s and the round duo, mini round duo, up through the two 11-0s. Now I'm coming to the end of my bracelet because I only did a mini. Then 5 of my 11-0s, so you're just going to repeat this all the way around, like so. So that's what it's going to look like on one side, and then when you get to the end, you'll get to end with your clasp. I'm going to pick up 5 11-0s, and I'm just going to sew through. I'm going to just do the same exact thing. I'm going to sew through these two, That's going to end it. And then just go through your mini and through, you know, several beads and, you know, and tie some half-hitch knots, and then you'll be done. I thought also, just a note, if you wanted to add like a little, maybe a 2mm pearl in between your peyote, again, around, that would kind of really finish the clasp nicely. If you had a 2mm in the color pearl that you're using, that could work, or even, you know, a sort of bronze color or copper color one. So just like an afterthought there. All right, so finish both sides and then come back and we'll finish up. We're done. And I did add on that extra round of peyote. All I did was use the 2 threads that I had left over, you know, that were, you know, when I came around and added the last 5 beads. And I just went through the mini round duo, and I came out and I just added a 2mm rondelle here, which I think worked out beautifully all the way around. I took the other thread as well, and I went through the other way, you know, just to sort of, you know, lock everything into place. And then I just tied my threads in, and I love how that came out. I think that is so pretty. And the original one, you know, my original sample, I just added a thread and added 2mm fire polish, which worked just as well. So even if it's, you know, sort of like an afterthought like mine was, you can still add that on. Here's the necklace. Remember, we had that reversible necklace, if you that kind of goes with it, and the earrings. So I hope you enjoy this video. I hope you take a look at some more of these more unusual two-hole beads, because I just think they're so pretty and they add so much to a piece, and it's just great to have them in your stash, even if you just do just the metallic that you use all the time and maybe one neutral, and that way you can just kind of incorporate them whenever you need them. And I love the mini round duo. I know we haven't used that in a long time, because it is really like a super duo, right? Only it's round. They're all like that, aren't they? They're all some sort of version of a super duo, only just you know, slightly different shapes and such, so that you can really incorporate them so beautifully, like the super duo and the Moby duo together. I love it. All right, so I want to thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.